Oh, hi, Ellen. Come on in.
Hi, Mr.
Hi.
Wizard.
Come on over here and look at these lines. See those lines?
Yeah, what are they?
Well, I'm checking this watch. You got a watch on?
Yeah.
Keep good time?
Well, hasn't failed me yet.
Well, let me see. Let's see how good it is.
It's a perfect watch. It's mine. Are those the ticks from my watch?
Well, I'll explain this to you later. I just wanted to check it. Ah, there. You see the little lines that are coming out of here?
Yeah.
Well, that gives a watchmaker an indication of how accurately your watch is running.
Is mine all right?
Well, it's pretty good. Pretty good. But you'll find out how we're going to do that later. Because today, you and I are going to investigate graphs at work.
Graphs at work?
Yes, you know what a graph is?
Yes.
What's a graph?
Well, it's usually, well, when I think of a graph, I think of lines, you know, explaining something,
Yeah.
or showing how something moves, or in relation to something.
Very good. But the idea of a graph is that it's from the word graphic. The fact that a graph makes a picture out of just sort of ordinary facts and figures and whatnot, and you can see it a lot more easily.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start out with a graph that begins at millions of years, and we're going to end up with a graph that's a millionth of a second. Because time, you know, is usually one of the bases for a graph.
How can you do that?
Well, come on, let's start from the beginning. And come on over here, I'll show you. Let's start with a typical graph, the one that you might think of, in which millions of years are the basis of one of the lines. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen. There. Now, is that what kind of thing you think of as a graph?
Well, yes.
Sort of, huh?
Kind of.
See the numbers here on the side? That's 440 million years.
Wow.
420, 365, 350, and so forth,
yeah.
all the way up to the present.
These are different ages?
And those are the different ages, geological ages. Now, here is the information on the graph that you can compare to the years. See what that says?
Jawless fish.
Jawless fishes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And placoderms, they were kind of a jawless fish. And you can see by where they, you know, where they started and kind of where they died out.
Yeah, they started down here.
Yes.
And then died out right up here.
Yeah. Now, how about this other group?
They started a little later and
Yeah, and
died
they
out.
lasted for quite a long time, didn't they?
Long time, yes.
Now, cartilage fishes are fishes like sharks.
Oh, well, they're still around today.
And notice this graph tells you two things. One, it tells you when they began and, you know, how long they lasted.
Yes.
And also, the thickness of the line tells you how many different kinds there were.
Oh.
Here are bony fishes, you know, the fish ordinarily that you think of. And you see they increased in diversity until today there are many different kinds.
Yes.
You have amphibians, you know, like salamanders
Yes.
and
Yes.
frogs and toads. Look at the reptiles. Tell me about that. What kind of information can you get from that?
Well, first of all, it started about here.
Yeah,
And it's still going
245
on.
million
yeah,
years.
It's still going on today. And let's see, these bumps, I guess over here, that it was very, there were a lot of them at
Yes,
that
right
time.
in here, the width of that line indicates that there were, or the width of that figure there indicates there were a lot of them, and up here also. What do you
Yes.
suspect that was then?
Well, I guess these were dinosaurs.
Yes, that's right. Those are the ages of the dinosaurs there. Then look at birds and mammals.
Birds
you
and
see.
mammals.
Mammals started out and were rather insignificant in the beginning, weren't they?
Yes,
And then,
not
of
very
course, they
many.
grew out and went. Well, anyway, that's the typical kind of graph that you would think of, right?
Yes.
In which the time base there is millions of years. Okay?
Long time.
Long time, yeah. Now, let's go then to and there can be graphs with the year as a base, you know, and so
Yes.
forth. But here's a graph in which you can change the base to whatever you want. See this paper coming out of here?
Yes.
Look, does it look like graph paper?
Well, yes. It
Okay.
has different lines.
But
on it.
notice what happens when you turn this control up here. See it speed up a little bit?
Yeah, it's moving. Now it's moving faster.
Now it's going. This is the top speed, 20 inches per minute. And by turning this dial and turning this one over here, you can get it to go 1 inch per hour.
1 inch per hour?
Yes, you see, so you can vary the time base of your recording depending on what you're trying to make a picture of. Let's put it at 10, or I'll put it at 20, so we make it go fast.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'll turn it off for a minute. And here are two little wires. You see those two little wires twisted together?
Yeah.
Okay, well, those two little wires, when you put them in a candle flame or any kind of heat, they send out a feeble electric current because they're dissimilar metals. The current goes around through the back over here and into the amplifier and comes out over here on that little pointer.
Oh, well, that way then you can register the movement of the flame and everything,
Yes,
can't
yes.
you?
We can actually measure the amount of heat that's being generated by the candle up, down, all around, and the pointer now will move according to the kind of heat that makes this thermocouple work. Well, let's start it. And let's light the candle. Drop a match.
Okay.
You get it? Okay, now put the thermocouple over the...
Wow.
See it move?
Uh-huh. Can't hold it there very
No.
long.
Well, I'll switch it over to a different scale. Now you can put it right over there. I'll mark this as where we change scales.
Wait, is this a higher scale?
This is one in which we're registering a higher temperature. Now put it right in the flame.
On the other scale would have been
Yeah.
off long ago. Slowly getting toward the end there.
Okay, now take it out of the flame.
Out it goes back.
Now hold it in the flame and blow it out.
It's going off.
Yeah, we're now on the high scale, and when it gets down over there, I'll switch it back over to the...
The other one. Wow. Now it's going.
Yeah,
down.
now it's going on the other scale. So you see, by adjusting this dial down here, we can get any kind of scale. We could have 0 down there, and 1,000 degrees here, or 50 degrees, or whatever kind of degrees we wanted.
But
And
on
we-
different scales.
And we can change the rate of that the graph is made by changing the speed here. Okay, let's stop it because I think the paper is getting crooked over there because I got it running off the thing sideways. Let's take it off once and take a look at it.
Okay.
That's where I had it going. Now, what can you tell me about what happened to the...
Let's see. Well, here we started it, and it was cool here, and then it got hotter, and then it got a little cooler again, and then hotter, cooler, hotter.
As you moved around. Now notice if we had a fixed position here, we could tell exactly what happened with the candle flame as the heat came near it or went away and so forth. You instead moved the probe around.
Yes.
And here's where we changed
That's
scales.
where we changed.
Okay.
And normally when it's over here, it would have, on this
Would've
scale,
gone
it would
way
have been
out.
all the way out.
Now, we used heat to make these lines. What else could we use?
Well, you could use sound.
Well, wait a minute now. How do you mean?
Well, you could change that into an electric current.
That's right. Anything that you can change to electric current, you could put onto here. So sound, what else?
Let's see, this
With a
light.
microphone. Yeah, light with a photocell.
Well, you have heat, motion, I think.
Yes, some kind of motion you could change to electrical energy, so you can record anything you like on this thing.
Yes. Very handy machine.
Very, isn't it? And notice the important thing here is the time base on the bottom, instead of millions of years, is now anything from
It's
1
just
inch
minutes.
per second, 1 inch per minute to 1 inch per hour. I'm sorry, it goes up to 20 inches per minute. That's the one we were using.
Yes.
Quite fast. Now you can have several different needles all working at once, drawing these pictures, and that's what this photograph is. Here, I'll put it up here. Turn it right side up. See?
What is that?
Well, this was actually coming off like this, you see. There were many
Yes.
different needles going along, and there were 8 different scales here. Well, you can see it says right down there, this is Ranger 7.
Oh, that was.
The one that hit the moon.
Yeah.
And right over here, you see those squiggly lines?
Yeah.
Those squiggly lines are the recordings that were sent back from the satellite, and when it hit the moon, right there, it says impacts in,
Oh, yeah. It
and then the signal stopped.
changed.
Yes. Each one of these channels now was different information. Outside temperature, the temperature inside, various electrical equipment working. And you see all those signatures on there? Mm-hmm. Well, this is sort of a memento because the men who were working on that project, when they finally got the chart, they all signed it. You know,
Oh.
like you would a yearbook or something.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
And that's Ranger 7.
So here is a graph at work, and what kind of a time base did we have this time?
Let's see. That was,
Well, you could record an
yeah,
hour,
it was
certainly,
an
because it
hour
would have an
or,
inch. And
could
you-
be days, too.
Could be, yes. In fact, you can let it run all the way out across the room. You'd have have a whole different time base. Okay, now the next problem. We're going to move the time base down shorter yet, and that's the problem of your watch. And you wanted to know how it was I could look at that line and tell whether your watch was fast or slow. So let's take a look at that. I'll take your watch off and put my inexpensive pocket watch on here. Now, You see in the watch there's a little balance wheel that goes back and forth and back and forth.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, how's this thing work?
Well, now wait a minute. As that little balance wheel goes back and forth, there's an arm that moves back and forth, and 5 different sounds are given out from it. So underneath here, there's a microphone, and those 5 sounds are picked up over here, sent over here, back here to an amplifier, where they then make this little bar go up and down. In fact, I'll turn it on. Here? Mm-hmm. That little bar going up and down is corresponding to the ticking of the watch. Now, let me take this paper out of here so that you can see right in here?
Oh,
There's a little cylinder, yes. Now I'll turn it on. You watch. See how it goes around?
Uh-huh. It has lines
Little
on
lines on it. See if I can turn with my... See that little line right there?
Yeah.
Okay, well that little line, I have a big version of that.
Don't hit me.
This, let's see, make it go in the right direction. Okay. This cylinder down here will correspond to the rolling pin. Mm-hmm. And the scientists who've worked this out have got this rolling pin, or this cylinder, going around very, very accurately. Very accurately. Okay? Now, you put your hand up here. Your hand is the bar. See, like this.
Right.
Now, your hand is going to be activated by the sound of the watch.
Yes, every time it
Okay,
ticks.
so if I make this go around very accurately, and you bring your hand down right like that, it's going to make a little mark on the paper, because that sticks up there. Okay, now, you bring it up again, and if you come down at exactly the same point again, you're going to get another little mark. Right there. What happens if you're a little slow?
Well, then I won't get it on the same mark.
No, you'll move back and you'll print a series of dots going back. If you're fast, you know, it'll go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
You get the idea now?
Yes, so
Okay. So with it now, we can actually check the speed of the watch. And why should you want such a machine? How would you check your watch? How do you know that when I asked you when you came in if your watch was pretty accurate, you said it was. How do you know?
Well, I usually set it, first of all, by an electric clock we have in the kitchen.
Yes.
And the electric clock is pretty accurate. After all, it runs on a steady electric current.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. So how do you know when your clock is right or not? How long does it take you to figure it out?
Well, it takes a while, because if it is off
Yes.
in any way, I don't think it's off by much, so it would take a while before I really noticed any difference.
A couple of days, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Well, with this machine, you can now see almost immediately exactly how far the watch is and make a correction. In fact, I put this one off a little bit. Let's turn the machine on.
There it goes.
Now, you see that line beginning
Yes.
to form there?
Oh, those are the dots,
Those are the little dots, and you see it's going off like this.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you turn this graph so it's parallel with that line, about like that, you can read right here how far off the watch is. Look, it's about
3 minutes.
3 minutes in 24 hours.
Is that off, or is it slow or fast?
That's fast. See, it's on the plus side.
Oh,
I went all the way around over there. So you watch what I'll now change this. You see that little lever there?
yes.
I'll change it, and you watch what happens to the... Change it just that much. Watch.
No, it's
Not enough.
going
Okay, wait a
a
minute.
little straighter.
I'll move it way over. So.
Went off the paper.
Well, it'll start again. There
Oh, there
comes.
it is. There it comes. Now it's going the other direction. Have to get it like that. Now it's losing.
Yeah, losing about 2.5 minutes a day
Yeah.
or something. Okay, I'll see if I can get it to be straight. You see, by moving this little pointer over a little more. You don't have to move it much. It makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes. Now it's going, well, straighter. If it goes perfectly straight, does that mean you have a good watch?
Yeah, well, it means that the watch is running accurately.
That
Almost?
kind of- well, yeah, it's... Let's see.
Now you see some of these other little dots around here.
Yes.
They indicate that there's some kind of a problem here in the balance wheel, and so a jeweler can use this to diagnose some of the troubles that are in.
Oh, so
It should be a nice clean line, and this one, of course, is an inexpensive pocket watch, so the balance wheel and the various parts are. That's pretty. It's getting better anyway.
Yes,
it's a lot
it's
better
getting
than before.
better.
All right, let's try your watch.
Okay.
You said your watch was pretty good.
Well, it hasn't failed me yet. I don't think. Let's see now. There it is. That's pretty
Yeah,
straight.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Not like that.
See,
A little off.
Your line is much better than that inexpensive watch, pocket watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little off.
Just
now,
a little.
not only does this machine tell you how fast and slow, but it'll show you what happens when you move the watch in various positions. Because after all, the balance wheel is in a different position when you turn it this way, isn't it?
Yes, so
Okay,
that should
now
affect the watch too.
See if that affects it.
Yes, it does.
See, it changed a little bit, didn't it? You're
Now
about.
I gain.
Yeah, you're gaining just a little bit.
Yeah, I gain. What was it, about 10 seconds or so a day? A little more.
You're not quite parallel either.
I'm not?
There.
Oh. Sell. Stock market.
It does look something like a stock
Yeah.
ticker, doesn't it? Now, what is the time base that we're using here? I'll turn it over this way.
Well, it's parts of parts of a minute.
Yeah, parts of a minute and actually parts of a second. Those little dots there are corresponding to the tiny little sounds that are given out 5 times a second.
Uh-huh.
See what happened when I changed position?
Yeah, now it's now it's really off. My watch isn't as good as I thought.
Well, it's perfect. Don't forget that if you add a perfectly straight line in here, that would mean absolutely accurate. And after all, a watch doesn't have to be any more accurate than a few seconds a day for normal purposes. If you want to be very accurate, of course, then you should get a straight line.
Yes.
But your watch has worked all right, hasn't it?
Yes, it's.
Point is, if you took it to a watchmaker and wanted to have it fixed, well, he could use a machine and get it to come out. You see? Very careful. Okay, well, let's stop it then and take a look at the graph.
Some of that is your pocket watch too.
Well, now you can see the difference between my pocket watch and yours. Start over
Yes,
there at my
let's see.
pocket watch and you can
First, it was really going off that
Yeah.
way. That's your pocket watch.
Yeah.
And then the same thing. It went off the line, so it started here. And then you changed it. You moved that little thing on the back, and it came down like that. And these things you said were.
Well,
these
those
are the
show
balance
some,
wheel, I
yes,
think.
they show some problem there.
Then you moved that thing on the back again, and it seemed to straighten out
Yeah,
a little.
fairly well. Yeah, better anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, now what happened with your watch there?
Well, it started going.
Yeah, pretty
it's
good.
pretty good.
Not bad.
And then it went off the paper. It started
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Then you changed it, the direction.
Direction,
is,
that's right.
and went down.
Yeah, I noticed that it
Looks
wasn't
like
quite
a-
as good. You got a few
yeah,
little problems in there. haven't
balance
you?
wheel.
Yes, perhaps, yeah. Anyway, what is the time base now?
Parts of a minute and possibly parts
Parts
of a second.
Okay, now let's get a shorter time base yet. This time the problem I'm going to give you is I have a photographic shutter, and I think there might be something wrong with it. Now, the shutter, I use it mostly at a 100th and a 200th and a 400th of a second, and you have to figure out some way to make a graph with that kind of a time base on it.
Well, can you use this? I don't think so.
No, you couldn't use this, but you can use our old friend the oscilloscope.
Oh, yeah.
All right, come
Forgot
on,
about
yeah.
him.
Come on around over here. I'll get on this side.
Is it?
There's my camera shutter, see? All right, here's a light. If I turn the light on, I can shine it right here at the camera. You're going to work this later. When you cock the shutter, you go like that.
Yes.
Now fire the shutter once. You see what happens here? The thing opens and closes. Right?
Yes.
On the back side, I taped a photocell. So
Oh.
every time the shutter opens, photocell,
It'll take the light,
yeah,
won't it?
it will be exposed to the light. And there's 2 wires that come around from over here, and we put them over here in the scope, and we can now take a picture. We can display up here what happens when the light hits the photocell.
Yes.
All right? Now, the time base that I have set up on here, see those little lines on there?
Uh-huh.
Each one of those little lines is a 500th of a second. In order,
500.
yeah, and in order for us to see the scope better, I'll turn down the lights just a minute now, and we'll be able to see the scope a little better. Okay. Now, you see those lines that I'm talking about in there? Each one of those is a 500th of a second. If the camera shutter is set at a 100th of a second, how many of those should we see?
We should see,
Each one is a
each one is
500th.
a 500.
To make 100th,
You'd see, 5 of
5 of them. Okay, so you can now check my shutter. Go ahead, try it once.
Okay, we'll see if it's, oh,
It's cocked. I cocked it already. Was it?
Well, I don't really know. It went so fast, I couldn't tell.
Well, you remember when we used the shutter once before? Remember how we
Yes.
solved the problem?
Yes, you took a camera
Yeah.
and put it on.
We took a picture of it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the kind of an oscilloscope where you don't have to do that. All you have to do is like this.
Well, what's that do?
Well, you try it again. Cock the shutter
Alright.
and fire it.
registers.
It stays there. See, it has a sort of built-in memory.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Is it about 5?
Should be 5, right?
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3. Well.
And it's going down into here, and it's only
right.
partially opened over here.
Uh-huh.
Try it once again, just to make sure. I'll just keep the memory thing up there, and it'll make another.
Well,
Ah, that was a little better. You see, a little better. Okay, now you see the shutter down there, those numbers on it?
Yes.
Would you move it now to a 200th?
It was on the 100th.
Yes, now move it to a 200th.
Okay.
Okay, now is the shutter cocked?
Yeah.
Where should it be here?
Let's say it should.
This was a 200th.
200th.
This was a 100th. A 200th would be what?
2.5.
Half of it, yeah. Okay,
All right.
try one.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, not quite, but pretty good.
All right, try it again.
Well, that was a little bit.
Well, you see,
Wasn't so good.
1,
2.
1, 2. It's not too bad,
Well,
after all.
It's just a little off. It's
All right, now try the next one, 400th.
400. Okay. Move this down there.
Now, before you fire it, where should this one be?
Let's see. That's should be 4 of them, shouldn't it?
Well, wait a
Wait,
minute.
no,
Each
wait
one
a
of those is a 500.
500th.
So it ought to be about one of them, shouldn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, all right, try one.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Mm-mm.
What's the matter?
It's not quite right.
It's about like a 200th,
yeah.
isn't it? Try it again to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
no,
about like a 200. So what would you diagnose the trouble with my shutter is?
Well, it's not quick enough. It has to be
We'd have to fix it, but what speed should I change?
the 400.
The 400th, yeah, there's something wrong with it. Now, this time base here was 500th of a second between each one of those little lines.
Yes.
Do you see there's a couple of other shutter speeds down there? Let's try a 25th of a second. Can you move it over? And I'll change the time base here to 100 and erase what we've got there, and we can check a 25th and a 50th.
Is that in line with the light?
Okay, try it. Helps if you cock the shutter.
Yeah, it helps.
Now,
Now.
this time I changed it so that each one of these little spaces is 100th of a second.
So this should take should take 2 of them,
4 of them.
4 of them.
400th of a second is equal to a 25th. Is that what you
Yeah.
got it set at? Or have you got it at a 50th?
No, it's at 25.
Okay.
So something's wrong.
Yeah, my shutter is not too good, although try it again.
Same
So
thing.
that's 1, 2, 3. Now, if you put it at a 50th, what should happen?
Well, if you have it, let me get it down there. Okay.
Okay. Should be half of this, shouldn't it?
Yes,
Okay,
should
try
be.
it. Hey, pretty good.
Pretty good, but
Pretty good.
well, could be better.
Oh, well, come on. After all, we're talking here now. The difference between one little line and the next here could be a difference of, say, 1,000th of a second.
That's
After all,
true.
if that whole distance is a 500th, one little tiny line is going to be quite a...
So I guess it's
I'll
pretty good
I'll
then.
keep the whole shutter except that 400th of a
400,
second.
that has to be fixed.
400th of a second. That has to be fixed. Well, now, you see, by changing this dial here, you can make the oscilloscope have a time base of all kinds of things. In fact, let's go to a millionth of a second now. But let's work our way
can.
gradually.
You
Well, not with
can.
this. Let me turn this light out and get this out of the way. And up here, you see this little box on top of the oscilloscope?
Yes.
Well, that's a signal generator.
What's it do?
Well, that sends out a signal. And I've got it set now so that it's sending out 100,000 cycles in a second.
It's quite a lot.
And if I move this down, the oscilloscope knob down here, I can put this in the middle so it's not moving at all. The first little notch over there means that it will take 10 seconds to go from the first little line to the second little line. 10 seconds.
It's pretty slow.
See how slow it is? If I move it up over here now, I can begin to speed it up. That one? Yeah, right
Yeah,
there
it's
is one.
one,
Now it's
so-
taking 1 second to go from there to there.
So you cut the time by 1/10.
Yes. And now I can speed it up again.
See, it's going a lot faster now.
Yes, it's going a lot faster.
What is
Okay,
it
now I've got it set at about a 25th. Now I'll go to a 100th. Here's the one that you were using with when you had a 100th, remember?
Yes.
Here's a 500th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'll go to a 1,000th.
It looks like just a steady
If I have
thing.
this set at 100,000 cycles per second, how many of these are we seeing in a second? 100,000 cycles per second.
Yeah,
Seeing 100,000 of them.
it's quite a lot.
It sure is. Right now, I'm only sweeping across here at 1,000th of a second, so we're not getting very good definition. There's a 2,000.
2,000.
Yes, and now I'm going over to a millionth of a second, but this one is 50 millionths of a second.
Oh, well, let's see.
20,
20,
10,
10.
5, 2, 1.
That's 1/millionth of a second?
The time that it takes that dot to go from one little line to the next is a millionth of a second.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
So you see, really, the oscilloscope is nothing
Very
but a
handy.
graph, in which you can change the time base here to anywhere from 10 seconds there all the way to a millionth of a second for those little dots. And
No, it's still.
there's 10 seconds. Working our way up
Yeah.
finally,
To
a millionth of a second. Anyway, remember when you came in, you said that graphs were pictorial
Yeah.
versions of something, and we started out with 1,000,000 years as a time base, and we talked about in the geology,
Yes.
and then we worked our way all the way down. Next we went to hours,
Uh-huh.
and then finally we went to minutes and
Minutes,
parts of
parts of
seconds,
seconds.
and finally we came over here to the oscilloscope where we could get anything we wanted, which was from 10 seconds for one of those little lines all the way down to a millionth of a second. And the important thing that I want you to remember about graphs is that really there are methods of comparing figures to one another. And notice that if you were analyzing this line, you could see very quickly what happens. And that's why graphs are so useful, because they're so graphic, if that makes sense. Anyway, the oscilloscope is probably a very valuable tool because of the fact that you can change the time base on the graph displayed on the scope from 1 second
To a
all the way
millionth
down to a million.
second.